He was deep in thought as he made his way towards the bridge that morning. So lost in his own mind was he that he didn't even see the leg that was precariously placed in front of him. As Kane tumbled to the ground, he looked over his shoulder to see a smirking Chunin give him a little wave as he walked in the opposite direction, drinking from a water bottle. Kane glared at him in anger, and then smirked with satisfaction when the water in the bottle spilt all over the smug Chunin. As the three genin waited on their sensei, Kane closed his eyes. He was solely focused on the feel of the river below. He hadn't even needed to touch the water in the Chunin's bottle to bend it to his will, and now he no longer needed to touch the water in the river in order to feel it. He wasn't sure how far he could feel, but it was far. If he had to guess, he'd estimate maybe 180 meters, maybe 280. He wasn't sure, but it was far, in his opinion. It went both directions of the river, too, not just the direction the current was flowing. He wasn't sure what he could do with this information, but he prayed that this could be the push he needed to become a worthy member of Team 7. He had hope. "Let's get dinner," Naruko cheered as they wrapped up training for the day. "Sure," Sasuke said with a shrug as Kakashi just kept reading his smut. Kane didn't want to get to dinner. He wanted to go home and go straight to bed so he could wake up and go to the library. He wanted to explore his Kekkei Genkai. He was too excited to be hungry. I'm too tired today," Kane said with a sheepish smile. Naruko gave him a look of horror. "But, Kane, I'm hungry," she whined. "You're always hungry, idiot," Sasuke snarked. She glared at him before returning her attention to Kane. "Please," she pleaded with him. Kane really wanted to go home and sleep, but it was hard to say no to Naruko when she begged. But he really, really, really wanted to go home and sleep. He hadn't slept last night, and if he went home to sleep right now, he could wake up and have time to go to the library. Tomorrow? She frowned, clearly upset was his answer, before a big smile took its place. "Tomorrow then, no skipping out. That goes for you two as well." She turned and gave Sasuke and Kakashi pointed looks. "Whatever," Sasuke said with an eye roll. Kakashi simply smiled. "Thanks, Naruko," Kane said with gratitude that he truly felt. She gave him a small smile back. "No problem. Ichiraku ramen after training." And she began heading towards the entrance of the training ground. Kane's eyes widened marginally. He hadn't said anything about Ichiraku's. A fond smile took hold of him as she realized she said it because she knew he would have chosen there. Kane stared impassively at the floating drop of blood at his eye level. He was sitting in his usual spot in the library in the middle of the night, and he used one of his kunai to make a slight cut on his thumb. Kakashi gave Kane the set of kunai after their C rank. Now he actually had some tools, although he still lacked other basics like ninja wire and soldier pills. Still, he was thankful to Kakashi for helping him out. Kane wasn't sure what to make of this new feature of his supposed bloodline. He could make blood float the same as water. His only explanation was that his ability was not limited to water, but rather all liquids. That didn't really make sense though, as Kane finds it different when he manipulates this drop of blood when compared to manipulating water from the river. The blood doesn't give him a soothing, calm sensation. It doesn't really do anything, really. He can tell he's controlling it, but it doesn't feel good to control it like with water. Kane frowned as the thought occurred to him. I wonder what would happen if I... As Kane lowered the drop of blood back into his still-cut thumb, he attempted to mold the blood back into his body. A spark went throughout his entire being, and the only thing that crossed his mind was cold. As he quickly removed the blood, it felt like lightning went throughout his entire being. Cold, frozen, lightning. It was not pleasant in the slightest. Okay, never doing that again, Kane thought to himself in dismay. Kane paused to consider this development. Any blood he removes from his body he couldn't put back. That was good to know. God, why was he taking all this so calmly? Here he was, in the library, in the middle of the night, illegally, might he add, and manipulating his own blood through the air as if it were completely normal. Why was he just such a freak? Why couldn't he be normal? He took a deep breath to calm down. He would never be normal. He accepted that years ago. No sense upsetting himself about it now. He wondered if the Kyuubi had something to do with this. Maybe it wasn't a Kekkei Genkai. Maybe it was the nine-tailed fox. It made sense. He finds out about the fox, and less than a month later, he starts getting weird abilities. He also found out his affinity for water not long ago. He wondered if that could be a factor too. Did his knowing of something grant him some kind of ability, or was it all coincidence? My head hurts. This is too complicated. Cain decided to change focus to a thought he had earlier. I need to see if it's really the same as with water. I need more blood. As he held this kunai over his left palm, he hesitated. He wanted to draw more blood to practice and experiment with, but he had always been a careful person when it comes to his body. Schwink. After all, he thought to himself as the blood flowed from his palm onto the table, he'd always been a slow healer. Cain, what happened to your hand? Narco asked with wild concern as she rushed over to him and grabbed his left hand, inspecting the large slash across the center palm. I accidentally cut myself with the kunai this morning, he spoke uncomfortably. He wasn't used to people caring about his well-being, let alone fretting like Narco was currently doing. Bastard. For a moment, she thought Cain was referring to him when she shouted. He realized he misunderstood when a second later Sasuke handed Naruto's outstretched hand some ripped-off bandages. His teammates were treating him. Cain felt the flush of pleasure flow throughout his entire being, and he was pretty sure the feeling wasn't coming from the water below the bridge. Training was uneventful, but Cain's mood was still sky high. The four of them were on their way to Ichiraku Ramen right now, and Cain knew he had enough money for a bowl. The income from the C rank, along with the numerous D ranks they've done over the past few weeks since they've completed the C rank, have kept them well fed on ramen. A welcome change. After today, it was back to stealing. Until they did another C rank at least. Naruto was happily chatting Kakashi-sensei's ear off, who was surprisingly not reading his trademark orange books, but instead listening to the short blonde with an eye smile. Cain walked in step with Sasuke, neither boy speaking to each other, but the atmosphere was not uncomfortable. As the four entered the ramen shop, Cain froze in fear at what he saw. The owner of Ichiraku Ramen's daughter was wearing an apron and stirring a pot of noodles. Ayame was her name, if he remembered correctly. She was working today. Cain began to inwardly panic. He completely forgot that today was Sunday, and she worked Sundays. The owner always kicked him out if his daughter was there. Welcome to Ichiraku. The man's eyes snapped and locked onto Cain's own panicked ones. Ramen, he said with his eyes narrowed dangerously. As the rest of Team 7 took seats, Cain stood there frozen in fear. Ayame, go home. Teiuchi spoke with force. What? Dad, it's only 8, she said with surprise. Her dad had never told her to go home early. He always let her if she asked, but he never told her to. Now, Ayame! So, she left. All eyes had been on the confrontation between father and daughter, so no one else on Team 7 noticed that Cain had yet to move. He heaved a relieved sigh as he took his seat. As the rest of the team placed their orders, Cain hesitated when the old man got to him. One look in his eyes told Cain all he needed to know. I'm actually not feeling too well all of a sudden. Despite the grief Naruto gave him, Cain refused to place an order. He stayed with them while they ate, but doing so was nearly torture as he wanted to leave more than anything else. As soon as the others were finished and Kakashi-sensei shushined off, Cain took off. He didn't even walk Naruto home. Naruto wasn't speaking to him. She was frustrated with him. And Cain couldn't say he blamed her. After refusing to go to dinner with the team 2 nights ago, she agreed to go last night instead, and even chose Ichiraku Ramen for him. He responded by not eating, not speaking, and taking off without even walking her home afterwards. Last night was only the second night since he agreed to walk her home every night, and he had already failed to do precisely that. Well, he didn't really agree to, more like he was forced into it, but still. It's not like he minded walking her home anyway. "See you tomorrow, dead last," Sasuke said with a knowing smirk as he walked away, leaving Kane and Naruto behind. Jerk, Kane thought as he turned to face Naruto. She still hadn't spoken a word to him since last night. She had her arms crossed and a single eyebrow raised, an expectant look on her face. Kane knew she expected an apology of sorts, but he didn't really know how to go about giving it. His social skills weren't the best after a dozen years of neglect, so he had no idea how to go about giving any sort of heartfelt apology. He said stupidly. Naruto huffed before snatching his hand and marching off towards her house. The two were silent for the duration of their walk. What should I say? She's so mad. I have to say something. What do I do? As they arrived at the Hokage Manor, Kane suddenly burst. "I won't forget to walk you home again. I promise it was an accident." He stammered out so quickly that Naruto's head whipped to him and her eyebrows went to her hairline in surprise. You better not," was all she said in a small, fond smile. She leaned forward and kissed his cheek. Kane turned completely red as she walked off. He definitely wouldn't forget again. How could he? Kane awoke to the sound of knocking on his door. No, scratch that. It sounded like banging. Wait, what time was it? He launched off the mattress and ran to the small window. It was bright outside. Shit. He was late. As he opened the door, he found Naruto standing outside, a pissed off look on her face. "Kane, just because Kakashi is always late doesn't mean..." She trailed off, and as she looked past his shoulder into his apartment, it was clean, as always, and still a complete disaster. Naruto pushed past him and forced her way into the apartment. Kane felt dread settle into his chest. "Kane," she whispered in despair. She looked around. "It's fine. Can we go?" Naruto whirled around to face him. "Please?" he asked forcefully. And Naruto just nodded as the two made their way out of the apartment. As the pair continued along the pathway towards the meeting spot, Kane calmed down significantly. He decided he should break the ice. "Sorry, Naruto. I overslept." She just stared at him. "It's fine. Kakashi's always late anyway, so I came to get you." As Kane faced forward, he could feel Naruto's eyes bearing down on him. "Kane, Can we not talk about it?" Silence. Naruto could do nothing but nod. As the two made it to the bridge, the soothing sensation from the river did wonder for Kane's nerves. He felt calmer. "Glad you can make it, dead last. The idiot over there looked ready to upend all of Konoha to find you," Sasuke taunted. "Shut up, bastard," Naruto said back heatedly, a slight blush appearing on her cheeks. "What do you mean?" Kane asked in confusion. She wouldn't stop complaining, saying things like, "If he thinks he can skip out on walking me home the day after promising, he thought wrong. I'll make his ass walk me home while he's sick, among other things." "Shut up, bastard!" Naruto was completely red by this point, and Kane was no better. Sasuke smirked at the results he got. "You wouldn't be so high and mighty if Itachi was here," Naruto snapped at him. The atmosphere dropped immediately. Sasuke's eyes narrowed and turned cold. Naruto looked aghast at what she said, having her flush leaving her body almost instantly. Kane looked between the two worriedly. Sorry, I wasn't," Naruto stuttered out. Kane had never seen her so flustered. Sasuke heaved a sigh as his eyes softened. "It's alright, Naruto. I know you didn't mean anything by it." Kane was lost, but relaxed slightly at the change in atmosphere. Sasuke looked at Kane. "I guess you're wondering who Itachi is." Kane shook his head. "It's none of my business." "Well, you didn't ask. I'm telling." Kane just nodded. He wasn't comfortable talking about his own personal life, let alone others. But clearly Sasuke wanted to talk about this, so he would listen. "Itachi Itachi is my elder brother. He was a prodigy, some say more so than I was. Others disagree. When Itachi was only 6 years old, he performed a massive fireball jutsu on his first try, Sasuke said, lost in memory. Yeah, but you did it too, Sasuke, Naruto threw in. It took me a week to get the fireball jutsu mastered, whereas Itachi did it on his first try, Sasuke pointed out. Yeah, but Itachi's main chakra affinities is fire, and yours is lightning. You mastered all the fireball jutsu in a week when your fire was your secondary nature. Kane was shocked and impressed. He couldn't even do basic water style ninjutsu yet, and Sasuke was doing his secondary style ninjutsu within a week of trying? At 6? Regardless, Itachi was loved by everyone in my clan. He was supposed to be the next Uchiha Corps head of chief. Not me. Sasuke's eyes hardened. I love my brother. I loved my brother. Still do. He was the most important person in my life. What happened to him? Kane asked, fearing he might have passed on. Supposedly, he murdered Shisui Uchiha, his best friend, and fled the village, Sasuke said emotionlessly. Kane's eyes widened as Naruto bowed her head in sorrow. I don't believe it. Not for a second. My brother loved Shisui. Shisui was his best friend. I remember getting jealous all the time because of it. I don't believe for a moment that Itachi murdered him. Not without good reason, at least, Sasuke said with anger in his voice. I'm going to find Itachi and bring him home, Sasuke said, looking at Kane. There was a fire in his eyes Kane had never seen before. Anyone who could inspire such loyalty in someone like Sasuke must have been a hell of a guy. Kane hoped he might get to meet him someday. End of chapter 11. Bloodbag by Traydox. Read by God Emoji. There's another one. We're going to get another chapter out soon. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe. We'll have some more out. See you guys later. Peace.